Hello, everyone, and welcome to Lecture 6 of our CIS 1050 course. In this lecture, we're going to be covering some of the topics that we learned in our course textbook this week. Of course, this week is Excel, Chapter 2. So we've already covered some of the basics of Excel. And this week, there's mostly a focus on formulas and functions within Excel. So we're going to take a look at some of those, understand what formulas and functions are, and then some of the different functions that we have available for us in Excel that are commonly used. Okay, so some of the learning objectives for Lecture 6. So by the end of this chapter and this lecture, so by the end of this week, you should be able to use relative, absolute, and mixed cell references in formulas. You should be able to insert functions. You should be able to apply basic math and statistical functions. You should be able to use date functions. You should be able to retrieve data using lookup functions. You should be able to use the PMT financial function to calculate loan payments, and you should be able to build logical formulas using the if function. Okay, so let's start by looking at formulas. What is a formula? A formula starts with an equal sign, okay, and then it performs in a calculation. And it can use values, or it can use cell references, or it could use a mix of both, right? And Excel will automatically recalculate formulas, okay? And formulas also update when reference cells change, all right? So that's if you're using cell references instead of values. If the values inside of the cell references, inside of the cell change, then the formulas will update as the reference cells are changed. So there was a few different kinds of cell references that we have. The first is relative cell references. A relative reference changes when copied to another cell and is used for repeating calculations, okay? And this is the default behavior in Excel, so you don't need to do anything special to use this type of cell reference. So what happens is if we were to type out equal sign and then A1 times B1 right here, this multiplies what's in the value in cell A1 by the value in cell B2. If we wanted to do this for the A column and the B column, or we wanted to do this in the C column, for example, so A column has a set of values and the B column has a set of values, and then in the C column, we're multiplying those values together, then we could write this formula out right here equals A1 times B1. And then if we were to copy it and paste it down a cell, right? So now if this is in C1 right here, now we're in C2 and we're copying this formula right here. It's actually going to change it to be equal sign A2 times B2 because Excel understands that what you're trying to do is multiply the contents of the A cell and the B cell the A2 cell and B2 cell in that row, right? So this is super handy, especially if you're doing things with like budgets and stuff where you want to get like a total from your budgeted amount, right? Your left column, so your A column could have your budgeted amount, your B column could have your actual amount spent, and then your C column could be like A1 minus B1, right? You want to see did you budget properly? Is there money left over, or did you go over the budget in that specific category, right? So there's a lot of use cases for this relative cell reference, but we also have absolute cell references, right? So an absolute cell reference does not change when it's copied to another cell, and it's used for fixed constant values, okay? So this is the syntax or the structure of how you would use an absolute cell reference. You put a $sign before the B and before the we should say before the column and row reference here. So if we were to take this formula right here and we were to copy it down, you could see that A2, A1 would get changed to A2, right? Because it's using a relative cell reference. But when copied down, this doesn't become B2. It stays as B1 because we are using an absolute cell reference. That means we don't want um, the um, the reference to change here when we copy it down. Okay. And then we also have mixed cell references, which, as you may expect, is it's kind of half of an absolute cell reference, right? It locks only a column or row from being changed. Okay. So here I have an example, right? So $ A1 locks only the column A, right? So if we move it down, it would lock the column A, but this would still change to 2 if you moved it down. And then you could lock only the row as well by putting the $ in front of the 1. Okay, so that's how we use those 3 different references. Just keep that in mind, and remember that relative cell references is the default behavior in Excel. So you don't need to do anything special to have a relative cell reference. So if we scroll down here, we can move on to what is a function. So a function is actually a built-in formula, okay? And it performs specific calculations and takes arguments, okay? So the structure or syntax would be an equal sign, and then you say the name of the function, and then you provide any arguments inside of parentheses, okay? So how do you insert a function? You can type it out directly. You can use formula autocomplete. You can use the function library from the formulas tab. And then you can also use insert function. These are all ways that you can insert a function into your Excel spreadsheet. And then I have a few different functions in here that the book covers that are useful functions that get used frequently. So I figured these were important to touch on. The first is the sum function. So the sum function, as you may expect, adds values, right? So you can see the syntax here, say equal sign and then sum. And then we provide the start and the end of the range separated by a colon. So this is going to add the values in A1 all the way through to A10. And this is much faster than typing equal sign A1 plus A2 plus A3 plus A4, so on and so forth until we get to A10. So you can see how the sum function can be useful. We also have the average function. The average function finds the mean, right? So same kind of syntax, but we're using the average keyword, and we're going to be finding the mean instead of adding them all together. And do note that this ignores blank cells, but it does include zeros, okay? Then we have median, min, and max. Again, syntax very similar, just with the keyword median, min, or max, depending on what you're trying to do. And I provided some real world uses here for each of these. Right, you might want to find the median salary, you might want to find the lowest score on a test or something, and maybe you want to find the highest sale to provide a bonus for someone who made the highest sale or something like that, right? And as you can expect, right, median finds the median of the arguments provided, min finds the minimum of the arguments provided, and max finds the maximum of the arguments provided. We also have a couple different count functions here. So we have one with the keyword count and one with the keyword count A. Count itself counts numbers only, okay? And count A counts non-blank cells, all right? So that's the difference between those two, and it just counts them. We also have product and sum product. These ones are just a little bit different here, right? So product obviously will multiply the values in this range together. Sum product, you can provide multiple arguments here, and it's going to, first do the multiplication, right? So it multiplies the pairs. So A1 through A3 get multiplied, and B1 through B3 get multiplied, and then it will add the results of those multiplications. Okay, so that's how you use product and sum product. We can also work with dates and times, right? So we have the today function. The today function will return the current date. and it will update automatically. The now function returns the current date and time. So do keep that in mind. Today function provides only the current date. Now function provides the current date and the time. Now we can look at what is a lookup. So this looks up data in a table and returns related information. So for example, you may enter a product ID and have the product price get returned. Okay, and there's a few different lookups here. We have VLOOKUP or vertical lookup. And this is the syntax or structure of using VLOOKUP. So what VLOOKUP does is it looks for a value in the first column. It finds the matching row, and then it returns a value from another column in the same row. Okay. We also have HLOOKUP, right? This is horizontal lookup. It's the same exact concept as vertical lookup, but horizontal. And it's less common today to use these. The more common one to use is XLOOKUP. This is the syntax or structure of XLOOKUP. And some advantages of using XLOOKUP as opposed to using HLOOKUP or VLOOKUP is that it can search left or right. There's no column index number, and it is cleaner and safer. We also have the PMT function here. So the PMT function, this is the syntax. Oops, didn't mean to move that around. Just gonna hit Control Z. So the PMT function, right, takes a rate, NPER, and PV, and I've provided what each of those means right here. PMT function calculates a loan payment. So the rate is obviously the interest rate. NPER is the number of payments, and PV stands for loan amount. And so you input all those and you can calculate a loan amount. And then we have the if function, okay? And this is the syntax of the if function. So you provide a logical test, and then you have a value if true or a value if false, right? So some real world examples, you could use this for grade calculations, for bonus eligibility, or for status tracking, right? And we can also combine any of these functions together, right? So here is an example of combining if and average together. So what we're doing here is we have if, and then we are seeing if A1 is greater than the average of A1 through A10. And then, we're providing if it's true, then it's above average. If it's not true, it's below average, right? So our value if true and our value if false. And then just as shown above here, you can combine different functions, right? It's not just if and average that can work together, but you can combine a lot of these different functions together. And that's really all I have for this lecture. I know it's a very short lecture this week, so sorry about that. But a lot of this week is just understanding formulas, how to actually write formulas in Excel. And then functions as well, just what sort of functions do we have available to use, and what are functions, right? They're just built-in formulas. So yeah, that's all I have for this lecture. Being able to use these formulas and functions will allow you to analyze business data, build dashboards, automate reports, calculate loans, and make data-driven decisions. And these obviously aren't all of the skills that using formulas and functions will give you, but these are some examples. So again, sorry for the shorter lecture, but just basically make sure you understand formulas and how to write them and insert them in your Excel spreadsheet, and then understand some of the basic functions that we have that are pre-built in here. So that's all for this lecture, and I will see you guys in the next video.